Okay, I'm going to tell you a little bit simple about evolution. You probably, or maybe I said to the group before, that you move through the mineral kingdom first, then the plant, then the animal, and then you move into the human kingdom. Well, when you first move from the animal kingdom into the human kingdom, you come in with a mostly animal nature. You haven't yet experienced and learned and expanded your awareness that is part of the journey, the main part of the journey through the human kingdom. In the plant and animal kingdom, you're changing physical form as you get more and more complex and as you move up the various levels within the kingdoms. When you get to the human kingdom, for the most part, you're not changing form, you're changing awareness. Okay, so your awareness grows and grows and grows. When you first come in from the animal kingdom, you have very little human awareness yet. So the very early, very primitive humans. You might think of people around the, Neanderthal kind of people and early Cro-Magnon man who really had very limited human time on this earth. I mean, if you just look at this planet, they come in mostly just interested in procreation, survival, eating, conflict or wars and territorial and power and status and all of that. And so relationships, and I'm talking to you this related to the relationship issue. So relationships in those very early days are very similar to animals. You have the alpha animals that fight, to win the ladies. You have all sorts of status where there's the ones that have to, bow, in monkey and baboon societies. They have to bow and scrape to the alpha male and alpha female. You have all these lines of power and status. There are lots of conflict between groups. All sorts of animals mark their territory, and if another animal comes in of the same species, there are fights. It's that kind of behavior. So that's the fairly sophisticated mammal behavior. So when people first evolve into humanhood, they're similar. Of course, they develop a language. Of course, even animals have kinds of language. But at the human level, of course, the language starts to expand. But in the very early days, it's very simple. It's hunting and gathering. It's just, and the relationship, what each person does is very determined. The men hunt, the women gather, and bear babies, that kind of thing. The relationship definitions are very limited. And as man evolves and gets to get more and more, they move into societies where maybe they have agriculture, domesticated animals. Their societies, their cultures get more complicated, more options. Women can maybe be healers, or they don't have to be just a gatherer, just giving birth to babies. So the definitions between the roles and relationships start to change, start to broaden in a way. But each culture, each society has its own definitions. There's societies that are patriarchal, male-dominated, and there's societies that are matriarchal. There are fewer matriarchal societies, but we've all been part of one. We've been around for eons of lifetimes. So in each of these cultures, especially in the early days, the relationships are basically assigned by the culture. Maybe your marriages are,
arranged.
Thank you. Arranged. You have arranged marriages. Or, you're the daughter of a chief, and so he insists you marry somebody from another tribe that has big territory. That, you all know what I'm talking about. We think of the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages. You think of all these things where relationships as we view them today were very, very different. And the more the human awareness is increased over time, and we see that today it's a much, much more expanded level than ever before, which it would be, because once the frequency moves up, it doesn't go backwards, okay? So the frequency keeps changing, keeps moving up, and as a result, the planet right now today has a tremendous amount of very evolved humanities, and even those who have evolved even beyond humanities that have come to help this planet. And I'm not going to get into all that, but what I want to say is, guess what, guys? We have, every time we've lived a life and laid aside the body, all of that experience, all those rules, all those beliefs, all those emotional responses, all those relationships, everything gets folded into the soul. And the soul is carrying everything from every lifetime. And we're not talking 300, or 3,000. We're talking 300,000 plus. I mean, so many eons of lifetimes to get where we are today. So, this is why relationships are difficult. This is why relationships are confusing. This is why relationships, we're not sure. Why are we drawing in certain people? Why are we having a problem drawing in people at all? And for all of us here in this room, and for most people, or many people on the planet, the fact of the matter is that at this point, as you get more and more evolved as a human, in between lives, you decide what it is you want to get fixed, what it is you want to improve, bring into balance, heal. And then you choose the situations, the conditions. You have co-creations with your parents, perhaps siblings, perhaps other people in your life. And you don't always, wouldn't it be nice, we do sometimes, but we don't always choose all the perfect, I'm going to have a great childhood, a great, all of this. Most of the time, we pick people who are going to be difficult, that are going to trigger our patterns that we want to heal. Because we come in deaf, dumb, and blind. So we don't remember back in between lives where we're looking at the totality of our journey and we're saying, I'm really having a problem with abandonment and betrayal. This is an issue that's come up lifetime after lifetime in many different ways. I need to heal this. Well, if you come into a lifetime and you have great people in your life and you're never abandoned and never betrayed, that issue will never come up for healing. You don't remember you want to heal it, so you go through a life, maybe it's a great life, but you've not moved forward, you've not healed that pattern. So, what we do is we pick situations and conditions that, including people, that are going to trigger a difficult relationship. So you might have a co-creation with someone that has betrayed you in the past, they regret it in between lives, they see that they did it, they don't want to do it again. But they agree to come in and you set up a situation or condition, whether it's a father or a mother or a sibling or a boyfriend or whatever. You bring in the situation to trigger that pattern, which then motivates you. It's the propellant that gets you to try to work on making it better. So in my life, I had a very, very difficult relationship with my mother. And I told a whole story about it in my book, and it's fascinating because now it's all these years and all the hindsight and all the knowledge that I have looking back. So it's one of those things that I can tell a story in the book with hindsight is 20/20. But I want to tell you is that the difficult relationships, you can say, I've got to get rid of that person. They are stressful in my life, they hurt me, I don't need them, and you can just shut them out of your life. That is certainly an option, and you certainly don't have to be next to them if they're physically abusing you. You can move away. But I want to bring a suggestion that you notice what's going on with that person and think to yourself, okay, chances are I co-created this. This is a very difficult relationship. So what is it that I can heal about myself? We can't change that person. We can't do anything about their behavior. In fact, they have to learn their own pattern and figure it out for themselves. But we can work on ourselves. And for my mother, I moved 3,000 miles away in my 20s, and I moved here. And I said to myself, I never gave up on her. People used to say, walk away from that situation. I never did. But I was always walking on eggs. It was always very careful. But I moved 3,000 miles away. I still would go back every year, see the family and everything. But what happened? I kept bringing mother people. I had to get a boss that treated me just like my mom did, because I'm still carrying. It doesn't matter if you're 3,000 miles away, you're still carrying that pattern. And so, I had bosses that belittled me. I'd have a, date a guy, belittle me. I'd, have a friend that out of the blue would, turn their back on me and then lie about me to other people. And I'm thinking, this is my mother pattern. And finally, I got the message, and luckily I met Joan Culpepper, and I started doing the work. And before my mother died, in her early 90s, or late 80s, I completely healed my pattern, which healed her. She didn't do anything, but I gave her that unconditional love, which ended up healing her. Now, it might not, we came into co-create. She was there to trigger my pattern. Of course, I have the higher selves hindsight, they explained it to me. She came in to trigger my pattern. It propelled me to a life of seeking and searching. I eventually healed myself, and then I came to my mother with that unconditional love. And anyway, she completely healed, and I'm in touch with her now on the other side. And it's a wonderful story and fascinating with all the higher self information. So, in any case, I want you all, if you do nothing else, when you leave today, you start to think about those difficult relationships as something that they can teach you. It's not just always about putting a wall up. Now, of course, if it's really abusive and really hurtful, you have to distance yourself. You don't want to stay in it thinking, oh, this is good for me. That's not what I'm trying to say. But to reflect and to, work on the neutralizing. The whole thing with my mother was so huge for me. And I know it can be huge for everybody else. And of course, when you heal one relationship, guess what? It heals all sorts of relationships. I no longer see any mother issues coming in, I feel that all my relationships with everybody have been healed because every relationship has common elements. So if I'm working on shame or low self-esteem or low self-worth or victim patterns, I'm removing them for other situations and conditions, other relationships. Anyway, so I just recommend everybody that would be the one thing to come back with, is to think about relationships in a different way. And understand that if you have your patterns that have created situations and conditions, that the other person also has theirs. And that they've gone through some really tough times. And this also helps us understand a little bit about the other people that we're so angry at or we're so hurt by, that we're just coping. We're dealing with so many different ideas. How are relationships meant to be? Well, they've been defined in so many different lifetimes in so many different ways, and we come back as men, we come back as women. We've been played both roles, all the roles, and it absolutely makes relationships really difficult for all of us. And it means it's difficult for the other person too. One time I was doing a healing on a guy who'd been molested by a priest, and in the second healing I was doing, I did a series of 3. The second one, the priest came in, he was there present, but he wasn't involved in the healing, but I saw him, and he was just pulsing out arrogance and self-justification, and he never did anything wrong. It was just this very kind of arrogant, very, don't look to me, I did nothing wrong kind of feeling. So I just went and was healing the guy. I wasn't sure why the priest was there. But maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes later, I shift my focus of attention to the priest, and he was standing there like a completely broken human being, like a battered little boy. And I went, oh my God. All of that arrogance, all of that self-justification was really a coping mechanism. He just was so broken, so wounded, so hated himself. And but because I was looking at him unawares, there he was. So I'm just asking or reminding or suggesting that we can also look at the other people in the difficult relationships as having had some very, very hard lives, very hard times, and that they're a mess, just like we are. Okay? So healing, and we'll see where we go on it. Okay. I want everyone to quiet their minds and make sure you're comfortable. Move around in your seat till you feel comfortable. And just as a simple technique, a simple exercise, I want everyone to just listen to my voice, understanding that it's just a technique to bring that mind's eye in to activate the focus of attention. Because it's the focus of attention that we all have that allows us to activate the energies that we will be using for this healing. They're all divine energies. They can't just willy-nilly come in and do what they want to us in our free will kingdom. We have to invite them in, we have to give them permission, and we do that by using the focus of attention. So at this moment, I'm activating, and I see all of you are activating the focus of attention because we're creating the now moment. The now moment is an energy field. It's not fleeting, it's not unreachable or unmasterable. It's simply an energy field that comes when we focus on the now, focus on what we're doing right at this moment. And the energy field has been set up. I see it encompassing the totality of everyone in this room. And we're going to now extend the now moment by using the focus of attention. And I hope each and every one of you will begin to see this now moment expanding 360 degrees around us, moving very, very far into the past and very far into the future to encompass the totality of the past nows, this present now, and all of the future nows. And we do this because it's important that when we do the healing, it is not just on one situation, one condition, one person, one life, one event, but on the totality of the pattern, the totality of the soul that we all carry. So this forever now moment, as I call it, encompasses the totality of all of the soul for each individual in this room, from the time we were minerals, plants, animals, and throughout the totality of our human journey and beyond. And there is a distinctive line, so to speak, from the past nows. We will never become minerals again. We will always be expanding and evolving. It is a forever now process. But the past nows are, in a sense, contained within this forever now moment. However, the future nows are not contained because each and every one of us, from moment to moment to moment, the future nows are expanding. So that part of the forever now moment is constantly changing. It's an organically moving, organically expanding part of the forever now moment. So, at this point, we're going to now focus on the pure soul essence. That is that part of us that each and every one of us carry that is from the originating source. It is everything that the originating source was, is, and is becoming. And some people think of it as a spark of light. Some people think of it as a flame of a candle. But I encourage everyone to think of it as a symbolic sun. The sun in its own right is so powerful that it immediately helps us to understand the power of the pure soul essence. It is our purest, most perfect, and most potent point of power. And it is exactly what is going to be doing the work today. So we want to expand it. We want it to fill this forever now moment, to completely become one with, merge with, amalgamate with the totality of our soul process. And you can sort of think of it like the sun coming up from dawn, coming up over the horizon. And slowly the light fills the horizon, fills the sky 360 degrees. And that's exactly what happens when we begin to focus on that pure soul essence. It begins to fill, it's moving its beautiful, powerful light into and around the totality of the mind, the soul, the physical body, the totality of who we are at every level. And the forever now moment then becomes just incredibly brilliant, drawing in souls from very many realms and directions that come to partake of that light. So just by moving into this amalgamated space, all of us here are providing this divine light for any soul that wishes to partake of it. And because it's divine, because it's the totality of the originating source of all there is, it has something for every soul. And the souls that are ready have come to start to partake, and I see literally millions of souls that have come to partake from all realms and directions. Some are in body, some are not. It's a beautiful sight, and anyway, so I always want to thank everyone that comes, because just doing this, just providing the light, we are helping souls on this planet and many others. Now, the next part is that I want to focus on becoming one with, amalgamating with the totality of the conglomerate higher selves. Your higher selves, each and every one of you, and mine, and any higher selves from any other realm or direction that care to join with us today. I want all of us to amalgamate with this totality energy. It too is filling the forever now moment. The higher selves are part of us, so they know who we are. They are facilitators. They are de-intensifiers. When we bring in energy from the originating source, it needs to be de-intensified, and they facilitate the de-intensification process and move it in through and around the totality of this healing, bringing it in at the very highest level that each and every one of us can utilize and be healed with, and without being hurt or harmed. The higher self, it's a tremendous amount of higher self energies just come in. Oh my gosh, and these are our higher selves, and in some way, hopefully you people, since everyone here has come before, hopefully you're beginning to get a sense of that connection. And I want you to understand that your higher selves are within. They're part of your soul process. They aren't without. It's not like they're gods or they're higher beings that we need to, ask a favor from. They are us. We have access to them 24/7, and the seat, the anchor of the higher self is within. We all have higher selves, everyone in this room. So hopefully in time you will come to understand that talking with, to sharing, to communicating with, to getting information from or help from the higher selves is almost like talking to yourself. And we talk to ourselves and we answer ourselves, and it's the same way with a higher self. Somebody asked earlier in the day, how do you talk to your higher selves? Well, it's a little bit of practice, but it's basically the same principle. It's part of us. Okay, so the last part is that we want to bring in the amalgamation with the originating source of all there is. And what happens when we do this is that I see the womb, W-O-M-B, the symbolic womb of the originating source, moving in and encompassing the totality of this forever now moment that arches through or arcs through the universe, known and unknown. It's so huge because we've been through so much time, so much space. We've been on thousands of planets. We've been through eons of lifetimes and infinite eons if you consider that we all started as minerals. So the forever now moment is like a time-space continuum, and the womb of originating source moves in and encompasses it as if it's but a drop in the bucket, as if it's a drop in the Pacific Ocean. There's no problem, and it brings, this womb energy is so powerful and so beautiful. It's creative life force energy, and it's one desire, and we all carry creative life force energy, all of us, but this is a reservoir of it, and it's an energy that all it wants to do is create, give birth to, expand, to know, to grow, to learn. It is a absolutely beautiful and very powerful energy that is almost obsessive compulsive about what it wants to do. And when we bring it in this amalgamated state, what it's going to do for all of us in this healing is it's going to give birth to us at a higher level. So during the healing, we're going to be both neutralizing, dissolving, removing old patterns, old ideas, old energies that we've carried for eons of time, and simultaneously we are going to be giving birth to ourselves in the highest ideal always. There's no harm. We can't go backwards. It's always going to be bringing us up into a higher frequency, into a better place, into finding and discovering and becoming more of who we really are. Because we're removing the layers that cloud our vision, cloud our viewpoint, confuse us, and instead, as we clear those, we're going to be bringing in the higher perspective, the new ideas, the more balance and harmony, and greater expanded understanding and clarity. So, and much more. Okay. So now we are in this incredibly powerful space. It's very intense. Now I'm thinking we should have left some of the windows open. In any case, it is what it is. Now I'm seeing you now all on the rim of the wheel, the symbolic wagon wheel that I use. We're all standing on the rim of the wheel, and I'm activating and calling in the rainbow bridge energy so that immediately all of our chakras are connecting with the chakras of originating source. It brings our chakras into the very highest level of efficiency that we can reach at this moment in time, which is important as the chakras are energy exchange points. They release energy out and they bring energy in. The energy that we're bringing in, of course, would be the divine energies that we want to move in through and around the totality of who we are to help us with the healing, the balancing, and the moving forward. And the energies out are the etheric energy identities, the thought forms, the habit imprints, the emotional blueprints that we've carried for a very long time in our etheric bodies. So we're going to be doing this two-way process. The negative energies out and the divine energies in to give birth to us at a higher level. All right, now we're also activating the rainbow bridge. So I see each and every one of you. The rainbow bridge is actually being created from your heart area or your somebody help me. What is the chakra that's just below the heart?
Solar plexus.
Solar plexus, thank you. The solar plexus, I see out of the solar plexus the rainbow bridge coming from all of us, and it's creating the spokes, and now we have in the center of the wheel the hub made of a platform of this rainbow bridge energy. And as you know, I'm one that uses symbols, so I'm creating this platform with the rainbow bridge energy, and I would like to see the symbol that the higher selves are going to bring to me, keeping in mind that the symbol is going to represent each and every one of you. And so as I discuss what's coming up for me, what the symbol is, what it represents, and all the patterns I'm seeing, I want to remind each and every one of you to start to let go of all those patterns. You can let them go out of your chakras, out of your anywhere, ooze out of you, out of the top of your head, your heart, anywhere. Just let those energies go. And if I don't say something but it comes up for you, go ahead, let it go. I can't say everything in one session. So I want everyone to please feel free. You can add in things that I say. You might add detail to something I say, or you might bring in something completely new. So just begin the release process when I begin, and then just, you're your own directing identity. Please take part in your own healing. It'll facilitate and accelerate your healing by saying, okay, I can own this process. I can do it. And I know each of you in this room can do it for sure. Okay, so, all right, what I'm seeing immediately on the hub is very simple. I see a man and a woman. Now, I want you to understand that difficult relationships don't only come in love relationships. They come in parenting, parent-child relationships, sibling relationships. For some reason, I'm being shown a male and a female, and I have a feeling it's more because we've been here both with the male nature and with the female nature, so in a way, it's going to help us remove patterns from both sides of our nature, which is going to help heal any conflict we carry within each of the male and female. So we're just going to start there, and I'm just going to begin with confusion. And I'm beginning with, it's like there's a bird cage around these two people, okay? Like one of those round bird cages with little bars, curving down to the base of the bird cage. And each one of those, so the male and the female is inside this symbolic cage. Now, what those bars represent to me is the rules and the definitions about how relationships need to work. It doesn't matter if it's a parent-child, a father-daughter, a mother-son, a mother-daughter, a love relationship, siblings. It doesn't matter. Remember, this is just a symbol, but these are all the rules, the definitions, who we are meant to be. We've all been women who've been subservient or inferior to men. We've been women who were, intent on power and status. We've been so many different things, and same with the men. Men, when we're men, we've been warriors and hunters and, the breadwinners. We've done all sorts of jobs and have often defined ourselves by those jobs. And we've come to, because everyone else in the culture, society, goes by those rules, we tend to go by those rules. Now, so we've embraced and made part of our belief system and part of our self-identities all of these rules. And so it really keeps us in a kind of prison. We aren't really able to be as free to be who we are in a relationship with ourselves and a relationship with others, because we've taken on so many of these rules, regulations, shoulds and shouldn'ts, do's and don'ts. And often in the early days, those rules created survival. If you were the hunter and you took that job seriously and you went out and hunted, you could feed your family, your tribe, whatever. If you didn't take on that job, you were in trouble. Your family was in trouble, your tribe was in trouble, whatever was the situation. And so in the early days, a lot of these roles that we played were absolutely needed and necessary. And as the cultures and societies grew and changed and became more complex and more complicated, the rules loosened up some, but there were still rules. And as a result, many of us don't really know who we truly are in a relationship, because we have all these rules that held at the unconscious level. They get triggered off when we meet someone, when we're born and have parents, with our siblings. We're triggering off old belief systems just in the nature of bringing in a relationship for whatever kind. So what we want to do, everyone, is we want to dissolve these bars, okay? And I want to just begin by dissolving all known and unknown rules and regulations that have to do with being a man. What it is that a man is, has to be, needs to be. I mean, in this day and age, what I love is that we're really getting to accept people no matter who they are. And we have so much more acceptance coming into the society. And people have been able to break out of the cage. It's very, very exciting. But we still carry all those old rules. It makes it more difficult. And so we don't want those rules. So let's just begin by releasing the male rules. And I want to just start by focusing in now to see what some of those male rules are. Okay. There's a competitive nature here. Have to be the strongest, the strongest, the best, it's all about comparing, whether it's the best hunter, the best soldier, the best swordsman, the best shot, with a gun, the best knifeman, the best tracker, the best. There's a lot of comparison and a lot of conflict between men. And I want to begin there because that was the first thing to come up. And I want all of us to start to let go of all the need to compare ourselves with others, to compete. Doesn't mean that there'll never be any competition, that competition is necessarily a bad thing. It's not an either or, as I say often. It means we want to release the triggers so we don't move into that competitive mode or that competition mode or that comparing mode without thinking. It allows us to be more discerning by releasing the triggers. We don't want to be on automatic pilot, so let's begin by letting go of all that comparison between man and man, and you can also do female and female. There's no reason why we couldn't, because I think females compare just as much as males. So let's just remove that pattern for all of us, no matter whether it's male or female. The competition, the having to be better than, or seeing ourselves as better than, or seeing ourselves as less than. We're all equal, guys. We're all equal. It's our viewpoint that shades and creates blinders or tunnel vision, and so we want to let go of those blinders, of that tunnel vision. We want to release into the light all of these patterns, all of these energies. Release, release, release. Okay, now you're doing really good. I'm seeing a lot of black filling this symbolic space in here, and the higher selves just always use that to bring that to my attention, so I know that everybody is letting go of some really good stuff. And now the light is moving in and dissolving the black, which it was doing anyway, but it helps for me to see it, so I know everyone's on track. And I want to... Okay. All right. What I'm seeing now is that there's like a part of each of you in the room, and I'm seeing it inside both the male and the female in the symbol. It's like the heart of who you truly are. It's the you, each and every one of us, the you without rules, without shoulds and shouldn'ts, rights and wrongs, judgments, comparison. And it's just like this very beautiful heartbeat within each of you. And I see it symbolically as a representation within the bird cage. Now, we're switching to, I want you to start to pump that true, beautiful, pure and perfect you out. And it's so interesting. It's moving in, through, and around the totality of each of you at the physical level. Because even at the physical level, there's probably not anybody in this room, or probably anyone pretty much on the planet, although I'm sure there's exceptions, that feels absolutely pure and perfect physically. There's some issue, something that they're not happy with, even though they're mostly happy. And some people are very unhappy with their physical. So I want you to first just pump that into the physical body. I'm going to call in and activate divine health, divine acceptance, self-acceptance, divine self-love, and just keep feeding that physical body. But now the pumping is moving, and it's creating, it's spreading in, through, and around the mind and the soul, and it's beginning to pump through the entire forever now moment. And I'm sorry for it's a little confusing. It's sort of shifting gears here. But those bars, by the way, that I saw that I started with are gone. So there's like a space in the cage, okay? There's a space that's been created because you guys have released a lot of that pattern. But it shifted me into this eternal thing. And in this way, it seems to be addressing the totality of the soul process, and it's addressing all of the bars on the cage, I see. So we've gone from sort of individual bars to now we're really going to be addressing all of the bars on the cage. And they're being bathed in light, they're being bathed in love. Now these bars are symbolic, of course, of how we've imprisoned ourselves, not on purpose. There's no intent here. It's just evolved over time, and so much of what we carry is based on misunderstandings and misinterpretations and misconceptions. So it's not about we're bad people. It's not about, it's not about fault finding. It's simply about just coming to understand how we have built up difficulties in our lives and the idea that we're trying to heal them. Now what's coming up is abusive relationships that we've experienced or been part of in either direction, because there have been lives where we've been abusive and been abused. Now, the abusive lives, I don't see anyone in this room that has had a predominant amount of abusive lives, being the abuser. But we've all been in societies and cultures where, for example, men were dominant and women were slaves or property. And that's what we were both taught, both male and female were taught. And if we were male in those kind of lives, there were times where being abusive was expected of us. There was peer pressure, just like there is now. There was bullying. There was, rewards for being bullying. You got to be somebody, you got higher status if you could do something, like a gang initiation, like that kind of thing that we might have here, where to be a gang member you had to shoot somebody, that kind of thing. And so we've all been in that end of the stick. And so I'm beginning now, I want you to all begin to really send out all that light to being abusers. And I want you to understand, this is no judgment here, none whatsoever. There were also lives where you came to believe you were an abuser. In the life, you did not have any concept or any idea of whatever you did was something negative. But afterward, when you were in between lives, as you became more sophisticated, more taken on more and more of that human nature, what happened was you would look back, and in hindsight, you would see in some prior lifetimes, oh, how could I have ever been so unconscious or heartless, or how could I have made such massive mistakes? What was I doing? And so, and then you take on self-blame, shame, and guilt. And so those also, this light is, and it's really doing good. You guys are doing really great. I'm seeing a lot of shift in the cage, in the bars of the cage. They're getting thinner. They're getting less solid. Divine love and divine forgiveness is really important. And that forgiveness is really helping. I see it moving in through and around the symbolic bars. It's moving in through and around the forever now moment. And it's time that we forgive ourselves with all of our perceived sins, lacks, faults, all of that. So I want everybody to release all of that self-personalized blame on itself. But each and every one of us has taken on ideas about parenting, about being a child, about ourselves from that early primordial ooze time. And I'm seeing this sort of top knot on the cage is now absolutely being dissolved. We're not going to know what it is, but I want everyone to release the emotional attachments to experiences, to events, to the misunderstandings, the misconceptions. It's almost all based on feeling. It's not logical. It's not being pulled from the totality of the forever now moment, all of the soul processes of all of the individuals here, and it's letting go of stuff. It's easy in a way to let go of because we don't have a conscious hold on it. Sometimes with our patterns that are more, we're processing the patterns as we go through lives, we find workarounds and defense mechanisms, and we build self-identities and belief systems around it, and we have a conscious hold. It's harder sometimes to get rid of it, but this is so elemental. It's just coming out, just flying out from everyone. Wow. And it's because there's no conscious hold. You're not invested in it. We get invested in those things that we wrap our mind around and we make decisions about. And so this stuff is coming out so much more freely than I would have ever realized. Yay. It's just being neutralized up a storm. It is just doing so much clearing for each of us. And I'm seeing even though it's just one little top part of the cage, I see each and every person here becoming lighter and lighter. It's as if you're just getting rid of a ton of gunk. And a lot of this gunk, even though we weren't invested in it, it was still playing out in lifetime after lifetime. It became very like a top knot, something that was functional. Because when we have rules and shoulds and shouldn'ts, we're much more two-dimensional. We're not complete and full and true to and expressing and becoming all of who we are. So these two symbols, there's one male and one female, are now really moving to be very three-dimensional, very, I feel joy, and I'm going to activate joy to really empower that. I feel joy and excitement. There's anticipation here, excitement, and there's beginning to be a kind of connection with the self, and I want to call in that divine connection, a connection to the self and to the self potential, and the sense and the feeling that there is so much more, and you're going to do it. You're going to find it. And now I'm seeing the two individuals turn to one another, and there's an appreciation now for the other in a way, because there's more of an appreciation for the self. There's more understanding. They're able to see each other with clearer eyes. So the relationship, which was basically two-dimensional in whatever form it was taking, constant fighting or constant, inferior, superior, or, conflict or comparison, or trying to beat one another, at something, whatever the issue was, abuse, abuser, the abused and the abuser, whatever it was a very two-dimensional relationship, so that it was only operational in fewer avenues, fewer arenas. I'm calling in divine love again, divine forgiveness, divine understanding, clarity of vision and expanded perception, divine nurturing, divine worth, value, esteem, respect, divine wholeness, divine acceptance, divine yes. And one last thing, I saw just very quickly a lot of those neon signs that we all carry, that I've talked to you about, that just draws in the opposite, that's going to validate whatever we already believe about ourselves, like moth to a flame. I saw a lot of those signs drop. I just saw them. I hadn't seen them in the symbol at all, but suddenly a lot of those neon signs or those magnets that we carry just dropped. And so that's very exciting. It feels to me sounds are indicating that the healing is done. They're putting each and every one of you in a cocoon of energy. The Forever Now moment is beginning to close up, and I just want to go around and check everyone